He's one of the most respected developer advocates, Nicholas Renotte. So he is the head of AI developer advocacy at IBM, and he has built machine learning models for Fortune 500 companies, currently leads over 500 AI engineers across the globe at IBM.
I am an ultra marathon runner. You kill so many of your dreams in your mind, right? Like people actually want to support you. Agents are really just LLMs with tools, right? And we use this really special prompting pattern called a ReACT architecture, which stands for reasoning and actions. Agents are LLMs plus tools. That's one of the really cool things, and something that I'm a huge advocate for, that when you're building these agentic workflows, they should be as modular as possible because stuff is moving so fast. So how do you de-risk some of these projects? You just make them modular so that if something new or better comes out, you're able to switch. The first one is cost, because, and I have these like mental experiments in my head every single day. I'm like, well, why isn't everything just being agent? Cost is going to be a big thing. So I think you need to think about when you're building these agentic systems, certain industries, there is zero margin for error, because who takes responsibility for that answer at the end of the day? So if I'm working with a government department, or if I'm working with a bank or a trading desk, and there is a slight discrepancy in that policy or in the response for that policy, what happens?
Everything was changing so much, it's so hard to keep up with. It almost seems like every single day you feel like you're left behind, right?
Remember that you as an individual are ultimately creative. So when you're like, where's my place in this world of LLMs and generative AI coming out? We're still some of the most creative beings in the universe, right? So don't forget that. Please don't just let LLMs do all the thinking for you. I think that's the key thing.
Welcome to the Generative AI Revolution podcast, where we explore the people, architectures, and ideas shaping the next era of intelligent systems. So today's guest needs no introduction for anyone in the AI builder community. He is one of the most respected developer advocates shaping the future of AI, Nicholas Renotte. So he is the head of AI developer advocacy at IBM, and he has built machine learning models for Fortune 500 companies, founded an edtech startup, and currently leads over 500 AI engineers across the globe at IBM. That's impressive. So he's also built a huge following of more than 320K subscribers on YouTube and 36K followers on LinkedIn. That's pretty impressive, Nicholas. And he's created hundreds of machine learning models and shared over 50,000 lines of code on GitHub. And he's helping thousands of organizations and individuals take their first step into AI. Nicholas,
you make it sound so great.
Yes, you are a legend. I'm actually a huge fan of your work, and I was like so thrilled. I did not know you were going to be at Tech Exchange, and when I walked into your classroom, and I was like, oh my God, that's Nicholas. I can't believe it. So I mean, like, yeah, I'm a huge fan of yours, and I think your class was like so high energy, and we were all wondering, because you're from Australia, right? So you had to like fly across the globe to get to Orlando, and me and my neighbor, we were just talking like, we don't know how he flew across the globe, and he has so much energy because you were like just go, 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 go. You had like all the code, like you were just like flowing. We were like very impressed, to say the least.
A lot of coffee. I think I was at the diner before all of my presentations and I just kept asking for refills. So that definitely helped a lot.
That's good. So then I was like, okay, I should probably ask him to be on my podcast. And I was like, okay, he's probably not even going to respond to me. And then I sent you a message on LinkedIn and he said, hell yes. I was like, oh my God, that was just, I did a little happy dance when you said that, because
Awesome,
a lot
awesome.
of us are a huge fan of yours, follow all of your content on LinkedIn and YouTube. So excited to have you here, and thank you for saying yes. So welcome to the show, Nicholas.
No, it's a privilege. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So in this episode of the Generative AI Revolution, we're going to dive into your journey first, right? And then we're going to talk about best practices. So we asked around to see what people wanted to hear about, and people wanted to like talk, know what are the best practices for creating AI agents. What are
Mhm.
the challenges that you're seeing developers are facing, and how do you make smart choices about the tools and frameworks that we need to use to build AI agentic systems? But first, before we just jump into the code, I want our viewers to get to know your fun personality. So I'm going to actually start
Okay.
with a rapid fire. Usually people end with one, but I'm going to start
Okay.
with a rapid fire. I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and you should just
Sure.
follow whatever comes to your mind first. All right.
Okay.
So,
Perfect. Sounds great.
all right. So, what's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
I am an ultra marathon runner.
Oh, wow. Impressive. Like, how many have you
Yeah,
done?
that's my little David Goggins side in me coming out. But I
Oh,
love running, so I
nice.
live out in the country. So I tend to just go for really long runs. Helps me think a lot, sort of consolidate a lot of my ideas as well.
Oh, wow, nice. So, do you do like every year, or how does that
Yeah, I
go?
try to do one big event every year. So like it just takes so much time to go and try to prep and plan. Like I used to,
Yeah,
my
that's
goal
yeah.
was originally to do triathlons, but it's like a whole second job. Whereas at least on a
I
run, I just need to put
know.
on shoes and get out of the door. So yeah,
Just the
one big
marathon
one a year.
itself, yeah, takes a lot of training, right? That's
Yeah,
impressive.
it's crazy. Yeah.
All right. So, coffee, I think you already said coffee, energy drink, or something else that's powering you through your long coding sessions.
Oh, I am definitely coffee. I bought an espresso machine at the start of COVID, and it has been the most used and abused appliance in my house. So definitely coffee.
Coffee. All right. So, the
Mind you,
next
I
question.
went through this huge rabbit hole of seeing those people do like those amazing coffee like processes on YouTube, and I was like, wow, I feel so underwhelming when I make my coffee every morning. It's literally just hitting buttons, and they turn it into an art form. So I don't know, maybe I
Yeah.
aspire to that one day. We'll see.
All right. Okay, so if you weren't an AI, what field would you be in today?
Well, I actually think I'd be in something like along the lines of like physiotherapy. So
Oh,
like
interesting.
I come from an immigrant background, and my dad was like, "No, you have to study either like accounting, engineering, or like go and become a doctor." So I was like, "All right." I actually started accounting, but like I really was ultra passionate about sports, and like I dislocated my shoulder and had to
Yeah.
have a reconstruction when I was 17 years old. So like it just got me really interested in like repairing and healing the body and like strengthening it. So I would have got into physiotherapy. Even now, that's like my little side hobby. So like I train an absolute ton, like twice a day. So yeah, I think it'd probably be something in that space.
Oh, nice, nice. That's interesting. I didn't think you would say physiotherapy, but yeah, I guess it kind of like goes along with your marathon hobby. All right, so favorite song or playlist when you're deep into code?
Yeah, so this one's a really odd one. So I love listening to the John Wick soundtrack. I don't know, like
Uh-huh.
there's just like a bunch of songs in there. It's just so intense. And it just gets me really hyped up. Mind you, whenever I fly as well, like I play action movies and I just fall asleep.
Uh-huh.
So I don't actually know how my brain works, but like it'll hype me up if I'm at my desk. It'll put me to sleep if I'm
Put
on
you
the
to
plane.
sleep? Oh, too. Wow,
Yeah, it's
interesting,
just I don't know, it's
interesting.
just the sound of gunshots that apparently helps
Yeah,
me sleep.
yeah. All right. So one AI topic you could talk about for hours and never get tired of.
Well, I'm still getting better at it, and this is probably something I'll talk about today. But something that I'm really passionate about is safety and how we make these models more interpretable, how we make them safer, how we introduce guardrails and govern them as well.
So, all right. Favorite coding snack when you're working late?
Oh, Quest peanut butter cups. So they're it's not a promo, it's not sponsored, but I actually really like them. They're like I tend to do like keto when I'm like in deep periods of work, so I try to keep the sugar and the carbs low. So yeah, those are absolutely exceptional.
Oh, nice, nice. All right. So the tech gadget you can't live without right now.
Okay, I had to think like really hard about this one, but it's probably my Ninja Creamy. I'm a massive foodie, so I was like, oh, I've got all this tech around me. I'm like, what's my favorite thing? Yeah, the Ninja
Yeah.
Creamy. So I've been making like matcha ice cream and like banana
Yeah.
ice cream. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice, nice.
because
right.
it feeds into
Um,
productivity, right? There's a
yeah, it does.
relationship.
It does.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It all works together. All right, just a couple more questions. So, when you're not coding or filming, what do you do just for fun? I think you already said it, but
Yeah,
yeah.
running is obviously a dead giveaway. I really like cooking as well. So, but specifically cooking for other people, I find like I really like the social aspect of it. Like we just got a charcoal barbecue and I've been like
Uh-huh.
modifying it. So I was making a barbecue on the weekend and it's almost like a little hibachi type thing. But yeah, I'm a massive foodie. So like virtually all of the videos that I watch on YouTube are either like people doing car stuff or people like cooking. So yeah,
Cooking.
I really like cooking. Yeah.
That's good, good. I'm sure the people around you love that, right? Like the cooking
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
definitely appreciate it.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen often, but it's my
Yeah.
love language, cooking for people.
That's good, good. All right. Favorite movie or series that gets your creative gears turning?
Ooh, great question. I really like the Spider-Man series with Miles
Uh-huh.
Morales, like that animated I just find like the amount, like, because I make videos, I can appreciate,
Yeah.
and like I'm sure everyone appreciates it, but like
Yeah.
I see
Yeah.
how much work has gone into like animating
Right.
this thing, and I'm like, this is insane. I'm still waiting for the next movie. So yeah, I think it's Into the Spider-Verse, but absolutely exceptional series of movies.
Nice. I'm a big Marvel fan as well. All right. So last one. So if you could collaborate with any creator or technologist in the world, who would it be?
Oh, so this sort of maybe ties back to the stuff that I'm doing in safety right now and like interpretability, but like I've just been going down this rabbit hole for the last 2 weeks on a space called like mechanistic interpretability, which is like a fancy way of saying we look at like how the activations are firing within a transformer to interpret like what makes them tick. And like one of the guys that, or like two of the guys that sort of kicked this whole thing off, Chris Olah and Neil Nanda, I'd love to collaborate with them from like a technical perspective. I think they're just doing such amazing work in this space. From like a pure creator slash YouTube perspective, I love Cleo Abrams. I think she's just such an exceptional creator. So I don't know, maybe someday we'll collaborate. We'll figure something. But yeah, it's probably those two.
You never know. Maybe she's going to watch this podcast and then invite you over. You never know.
Exactly. You got to manifest it, right?
Absolutely. I'm all about manifesting. See, I manifested you on my show.
There you
There you
go.
go.
It's
It
bound to
works.
happen.
So we want to start by let's maybe just a little bit more talk about like your journey and how it all got started for you in the coding. I've heard some
Yeah.
interesting
So
stories. Yeah.
about me with coding. So it like if I exclude like my career, I actually like the first couple of lines of code started when I was around about 8 years old. So
Hmm.
my dad used to do like share trading, and then one day like I was walking through a bookstore and I saw this book on options trading, and like there was this strategy called like a covered call. And I was like, this is so cool. Like there's ways to generate income off your existing
Hmm.
share portfolio. Could you do something with that? And like I honestly had no idea how any of it worked. But I was always like sharing stuff with people, and like I shared it with my dad. And I was like, hey, why don't you try this? And he's like, okay, cool. Like, but he didn't know how to formulate the appropriate calcs and like to set the stops and calls. And so like what I actually did is I built an Excel spreadsheet and I wrote a bunch of macros. Like originally it was literally like that was sucky, right? It was literally just me like recording the macros and then just working out like, oh, if I change this variable, then I can get it to do this, or I can get it to do this. So that was literally my first foray into any sort of coding. And I absolutely loved it from that point. So like it was just so cool. Then I did nothing for, I want to say like 10, 15 years, and went to university, studied accounting, just like all throughout university. I'm like, I just want to start a business. I just want to start a business. And like, I don't know where I got lost. I was like, starting a business is all about creating value for people. I literally have like a formula on my wall about like everything you should be doing in your life, and it should be generating value or being useful to people. Anyway, didn't do it for ages. And I got a grad position, like a really good grad position. It was so competitive. And I got it. And it was just all accounting. And I'm like, this is so boring. But they had a ton of spreadsheets. And like their spreadsheets have like a ton of macros. I'm talking like, I don't know, it must have been over 4,000 lines, undocumented. Variables were like, the variables were literally like two character words. So it was almost impossible to trace. So I would spend like 12, like 15 hours just at my desk in the office, just working out how to like unscramble these Excel spreadsheets. And like, it felt like time was just passing so quickly. Like, you know, when people talk about getting into flow, I was just into flow doing this. I'm like, wow, okay, I really enjoy doing this type of thing. So did all the spreadsheets, and like I would just be updating macros because like I absolutely sucked at accounting, right? Like I couldn't get journals right. I would just consistently make errors in production, which like my boss was just like, oh my God, Nick, like all you had to do was like switch the numbers and you would have been fine. I'm like, I don't really get it. This isn't really adding value, but that's cool. You do it. And anyway, eventually it's like, he saw like, I'm so grateful to that boss. His name was Jason, because he just like empowered me to do it. He's like, you're so good at this macro stuff, just go nail it. And like, he just let me go and do it. And then we actually had these consultants come in, because eventually got to the point that these Excel spreadsheets were just going wild. We had these consultants come in. They decided that we were going to re-implement a system. And so we implemented this in-memory cube-based budgeting system. And I would just sit there, like I was already working such insane hours. I would just sit there with them late at night, watching them code and like build this system. And I'm like, oh, I recognize that. That's a variable, or like you're pulling this from there. And there's like certain methods, and like this does this and this does this. I asked them so many questions. I probably like increased the amount of like consulting hours they got by like a significant amount. But I learned so much. And my bosses were happy because someone needed to pick up the system after the consultants left. Anyway. And then I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. And I just kept pushing a little bit further, a little bit further. And like, so by this time I was really good at that system, right? Like I understood it all. I could get it. Like I like understood it. I don't know if I could build stuff from scratch. And then one of my friends came across and he's like, oh, Nick, I'm learning machine learning. And he just, I'll never forget this. He's like, oh, Nick, I'm learning how to build unsupervised machine learning models. And I'm like, whoa, unsupervised? That seems so risky. And I'm like, little did I know that was such a dumb comment. But you live and you learn, right? You got to make mistakes. And I was like, oh, I really should go and learn some of this stuff as well, because like I just love coding, and like I'll just go and build. Like I couldn't code for like 10 hours straight. If like I don't have any meetings, I would just sit there and just keep banging stuff out. Which is, sometimes I have this problem with like Gen AI for coding, because like it disrupts flow. But anyway, I'll come back to that. Anyway, I was coding, and like I started learning, and then I took deep learning.ai courses, and I actually transitioned to one of these consulting companies that would do these implementations, and I started up their data science practice. And like, fun fact, I had like this exceptional client. Like, mind you, they were paying me for my time, but I was like, oh, we could do some data sciencey stuff here. We could maybe do some like you, at the time, the Facebook profit library was really, really big for like forecasting time series. I'm like, hey, we could like automate some of these time series forecasting for your sales. Like it was a massive wholesaler. So they had, I want to say like 70,000, 80,000 SKUs that they needed to forecast for. So like I started automating that stuff for them, and they loved it, and it was great. And then I'm like, all right, what's next? Like I'm always pushing further. What's next? What's next? And I applied to IBM. I kid you not. I think it was like 20, 30 times. I don't know. Maybe I'm overestimating that, but I wish I could go back into my history and see how many times I applied to this company. Like I'm persistent. Like if I want it, I'm going to go consistently after. I'm like, I'm going to get this. Anyway, I just kept applying. And then eventually some of the Sydney team, they saw me, and I think they actually saw some of the YouTube videos that I was making at the time on the Watson, like the initial, like the really early Watson products. And the interview just went so smoothly. And I was like, are you not going to ask me anything about like my technical perspective? They're like, nah, we've seen your YouTube videos. And I was like, okay, that's coming clutch. And then I got a job, and like, I've just been working really hard ever since.
Wow, that's impressive. I wouldn't imagine you having to interview with IBM for 20 times. But yeah, but I
Oh
think
yeah,
like that's where,
rejected 20
brand,
times.
yeah, 20. But that's a great story of how brand building kind of plays into all of this, right? So it's like when you put your work out there, you don't have to like say much. Your work kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah, definitely. And it's like a scary thing to do as well, right? Like, cause like half the time you're doubting, like you kill so many of your dreams in your mind, right? Like people actually want to support you. Like there's always going to be negative people out there that like want to tear you down and they're going to put in some snarky comment, but that's just a reflection of them, right? It's not a reflection on you. So I think that's such a key thing, right? If like you are trying to build your career or go into a space, you got to show your work, right? Like what have you done that's made you unique, or like what have you done that's so exceptional, that's so cool. And like I'm not saying this to compete, right? But like you have done so much amazing stuff. Like you just got to share it. Like you're like, there's so many people in this field that are doing amazing work, that are creating amazing things, that are building amazing models, that are so incredibly smart. You just got to share it, right? Because people will need to see it. And once they see it, right, it makes everything a little bit easier because you build your credibility. So when you step into a room, people are like, oh, you've done X, Y, and Z. Like I can ask you X, Y, and Z. Or you've gone and you're an expert in this space. Oh, they're going to like ask you and like understand that we can go down this route really, really deep. So it does make your life easier. It's really difficult to post and share. Like the massive props to you for creating your podcast, because I know what it takes to put in this amount of effort and get this stuff out. So yeah, but I think sharing is so critical.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of leads into what I wanted to ask you next was like, what was your inspiration to like build this big community, like building your community, like with like 300,000 followers on YouTube? That takes a lot of effort, right? Time and effort. I'm sure when you first started, you didn't just start with that big followership, right? Like you had to like just keep putting the content out. Sometimes it's like that, right? Like you just keep putting content out. So some content people see, some people don't. But what kept you going to build that big community?
I think one of the key things, and like I'm reading this book right now and I'm absolutely loving it. Well, I say I'm reading it, I'm listening to the audio book. I know that some people are going to be like, you're not actually reading it. But I'm listening to Be Useful by Arnold Schwarzenegger. And one of the first chapter is actually have a clear vision. And I think that's such a critical thing because it makes everything a lot easier in your life. Like when you have this clear vision, and sometimes it's really difficult to have a clear vision, don't get me wrong, but like when you have a clear vision, then all the decisions that you need to make to get to that clear vision become a lot sharper. So you know exactly what you want to do. You know exactly what value you want to add to people. You know exactly, should you eat this or shouldn't you eat this? Like if you're trying to build your dream body, you probably shouldn't eat the donuts. Mind you, I've got donuts in my fridge right now, but you should probably not eat the donuts. You should probably go and, I don't know, have a salad, even though I hate salad. But these decisions become a lot easier. And I think when I started my YouTube, like the goal, like of being completely selfish, like the goal wasn't to like build this massive community. Like I don't really care about the numbers. The goal was just to like get a job because I'm like, I want to progress and get a job in data science. Because at that time, like I wasn't a data scientist. Well, that's a really bad thing to say. Like you are whatever you believe in your mind, right? I was a data scientist, but like that wasn't my official job title. So that was the goal at the time. Then I'm like, as I progressed, I hit that goal. It's like, all right, what next? So then I'm like, oh, I want to teach other people and like there's so much opportunity in this field. I want to help other people be able to do this as well. Like maybe that's going to help a business secure funding. Maybe that's going to help someone change careers. Maybe it'll, I don't know, make someone's life easier. Like the sign language model that I built on YouTube, maybe that'll progress. And even now, like I'm going through this 2 days. So like I tend to do massive seasons of work and then take a couple of days off, double check my vision, like, or double check my goals list. It's like, am I still heading towards this thing that I want to do? Or am I heading in the right direction? So like right now I'm like, all right, what do I want to do next? I've got this following on YouTube. I've done this stuff on LinkedIn. Like what's next? Like, where do I want to go with this? Like LLMs are prevalent. Like, do I want to go down this space? Like, I think having a really clear vision and just working towards that makes everything a lot easier.
How do you make the time for all of this? Because I know content creation like takes a lot of time, right? So how do you like juggle your 9 to 5 and also be able to do all that you're doing?
I
And
just work a
along
lot.
with your marathon training, do you sleep?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Like I've got this thing where like there's like a whole bunch of factors that work into you performing well. So like sleep is one, water is one, diet is one, mindset is one. and I always forget the fifth one. I think it's like taking action or something. But like, you got kind of have to balance all of these things, mind you. I'd be so wrong if I told you it just doesn't like, it takes so much work. Like, you just have to work really, really hard if you want to achieve something like really big, or like want to chase after a goal. Like, anyone that says you can do it like working like 5 days, like 5 minutes a day is just absolutely insane. Like, if I actually track my work hours every single day, and like I'll write down like how many minutes of like pure dedicated hardcore work that I do, and it's like it blows out of proportion. So like someday, like if I go back to the spreadsheet, like I track it in this Google Sheets doc, I did. Actually, I will get you the exact number now, because I don't want to overestimate or underestimate this. I did something like, where was my last? I've got it up on my computer. It was, so 380. I worked for, what's the count? So my last break was this weekend because I took a couple of days off. But before that, I did. Okay, this is just too many numbers. It's basically like I worked for 5 months straight. Like, every single day I worked. Like that included weekends. So, and like my goal was to do like 100 minutes of dedicated work every single day. And like that was the bare minimum, right? So Sundays I would do 100 minutes, Saturdays I would do 100 minutes. And like, it just takes a huge amount of like direct input to chase after something. The only thing, and like I'm doubling back on this now, it's like those 100 minutes or that amount of time is wasted if you don't have a clear vision, right? Because you might be like going like perpendicular to your goal instead of parallel with it. So I think it's really important that you do have that clear goal as to what you want to achieve. But over the last couple of months, my goal was just to build back up my work ethic. And I'm like, I think I've done that. Like, I've gone and pushed out those numbers. Now I'm like, all right, what exactly do you want to do with that work ethic now? But yeah, it takes a huge amount of work. So I tend to do a big work chunk before the start of like the official workday, and then I'll do one at the end of the workday. And I mean, sometimes that means I'm jumping back on the computer at 11 p.m. or at I think over the weekend I was finishing off my like last couple of 100 minutes, or last minutes of my 100 minutes at like 12:30 at midnight. So it just takes a huge amount of work.
Yeah, well, it certainly does. I mean, like sometimes you're like just, when you're just a consumer, you're just scrolling through and it's maybe like, like a 30-second reel, or it's an hour podcast, it just takes you a couple of seconds to scroll through it, but to like actually produce it, like think about it, produce it, put it out there, takes a lot of time and effort. So kudos to you for
Yeah.
that. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so now let's jump into our next segment. So we often have like, people, like most of my audience of the people that I was reaching out to, they want to like know more about agentic AI, right? So maybe like we'll just start with the basics, just give them, how is agentic AI different from a traditional AI? Maybe we'll just start with.
Yeah, so I mean, AI is like a really big space, right? And like we've sort of gone down this route where everyone's like Gen AI is like a completely different thing. But fundamentally, like we start out with data, we train a model, we're able to make predictions. Like that's basically it, right? The biggest difference between agentic workflows and non-agentic workflows are agents are really just LLMs with tools, right? And we use this really special prompting pattern called a ReACT architecture, which stands for reasoning and actions. And we get our agent to generate, first up, to think about a particular prompt. We then get them to plan. So do they need to call out to a tool to achieve that final answer? If they do need to call out to a tool, they call out to the tool, they pass through the arguments, they get some observations back. We then determine whether or not we have sufficient information inside of those observations to complete the request. And then if we do, then we generate a response. If not, we go through that cycle again. So we'll go and act, we'll observe, we'll go and evaluate, act, observe, evaluate. And then if we've got a sufficient amount of information to complete the prompt, then we go and output it. That's really it. I think we're making this huge thing around like agents being like this super intelligent, crazy thing, but really that's all it is. If there's anything you take away from this podcast, agents are LLMs plus tools.
Okay. Yes. I remember you going over that over and over in your session until
Yeah,
it kind
yeah,
of
because
makes
I'm like,
sense.
oh
Yeah.
wow, like I think it's so it can be really scary if you're not in that space. You're like, oh, like how do I go and build these agents? Do these agents just have access to everything? Are they going to go and do X, Y, and Z? Like, how do we actually get this to work? And I like to try to make things like really interpretable. Like, I believe if you can explain something simply, then you understand it. If you can't, then maybe you need to go and double back. Like, I'm doing this mechanistic interpretability thing right now, and if you ask me to explain it simply, I'd be like, not gonna happen right now. But that's what I always aspire to. Yeah, yeah. I think agents, if you just remember that and take it away. So like you're gonna have an LLM. An LLM is where the AI smarts bit comes in, and then you're gonna have tools. Tools allow you to go and achieve or activate stuff. So maybe you've got like, let me give you some examples of tools, right? So you might have a tool that's able to call out to an API. You might have a tool that allows you to interact with your desktop. You might have a tool that's able to send an email or to write to a database or get information from a database. Your LLM, think of all of the big LLM names out there. You've got the GPT class of models, you've got the Llama models, you've got Mistral, you've got Qwen, a whole bunch of others. Obviously, there's like a ton more. Like there's the IBM Granite models. So we're able to blend these, and like certain models are really good for agentic, right? So they're the models that have tool calling enabled. So they're able to work with that React pattern. So we want to blend those together and achieve an end output.
Okay. All right. So can you talk a little bit about how IBM's watsonx, platform is helping developers build these agentic systems?
Yeah, definitely. Like IBM's doing some amazing work right now in terms of like the agentic space and like the AI space in general. So let me demystify this. If I did like break it down as best as I can. So fundamentally, we have three key things that sort of like underpin the AI mission, right? We have watsonx.data, which is effectively giving you like a big data store where you're able to go and surface all your data wherever it might be, which includes data inside of vector databases. We have watsonx.ai, which is the provision of all of your data science and your LLM and your Gen AI capability. So that think of the LLM side of things. And then we have watsonx.governance, which is the governance side of things. So that's where we can evaluate, we can monitor, we can track the performance of these agents out there in the wild. Then above that, we have watsonx orchestrate, which is a capability that allows you to go and bring a ton of agents together, which is the orchestrate bit in the title, right? It allows you to orchestrate all of these together. And then my personal favorite tool, which sort of plugs into watsonx orchestrate, is Langflow. So you're able to go and build drag and drop agentic workflows, hook those all together to build and deploy agents wherever you need them. So, and watsonx orchestrate like has MCP, you're able to go and surface your own custom tools in Python. Fun fact, I'm actually driving down to like our capital city tomorrow, and I'm doing like a massive workshop on all of this stuff. But the beauty of it is that you can mix and match whatever you need, right? You don't need all of these capabilities. You can blend them all together with your own capabilities. Like if you're using frontier models from other providers, you can still use watsonx orchestrate. If you've got LLM sitting in a particular space, you can still govern them with watsonx.ai. That's one of the really cool things, and something that I'm a huge advocate for, that when you're building these agentic workflows, they should be as modular as possible because stuff is moving so fast. So how do you de-risk some of these projects? You just make them modular so that if something new or better comes out, you're able to switch those components out as in when you need them.
But can you also like talk about, we talk a lot about theory, right? But real world application, like what lessons are we learning from implementing this with actual IBM clients? What are some of the challenges that we're running into?
Yeah, I think one of the big ones, well, there's two big ones that like are front of mind whenever I'm trying to build this stuff at the moment. The first one is cost, because, and I have these like mental experiments in my head every single day. I'm like, well, why isn't everything just being agent? Like if I owned a bank, maybe a pipe dream, but if I owned a bank and I had all of these systems, why wouldn't I just switch everything to agentic right now? Like all of this backend stuff that I've got, like between databases, I don't know, like rendering stuff back out to the net, internal systems for HR. Why wouldn't I turn everything agentic right now? And I think a big thing outside of the other component, which I'll talk about in a sec, is cost, right? So like if I've got all of these capabilities running right now, they're ultra fast, they're performant, they're easily manageable, and I've got the skills to manage them, cost is going to be a big thing. So I think you need to think about when you're building these agentic systems, do we need them to be agentic? Because the beauty of agentic is that you don't need to define a specific workflow or a specific algorithm to go and accomplish a key task. The transformer model or the LLM model is intelligent enough, if you pick the right model, is intelligent enough to go and define that workflow on the fly. But that obviously has a cost attached to it. Every single time we go and call out, we're generating tokens. Sorry, we're passing input tokens. We're then thinking and generating tokens. So that has a cost. So if I were to replace everything inside of my organization with an agentic workflow, one, it's probably a little bit redundant because I've already gone and defined these processes. I don't need AI to think about them. And two, it's going to have a cost attached to it. So I think cost is a big thing. And I think that's going to be a key factor as we move forward, right? What needs to be agentic? And once we have defined it as agentic, can we convert it back to a cached workflow and just execute that as usual, right? It's easier to monitor. We don't need to worry about hallucinations if we know what the workflow is. So whenever we're building systems at the moment, that's a big thing that I'm thinking about. Like, how do I take this agentic workflow and monitor it and transition that to a cached workflow, effectively like a traditional process? Because if we've got the AI to think about it and like, I don't know, 90 requests out of 100 are literally just calling an API, well, we probably don't need an agentic system to go and do that. And the other thing that I'm doing that is front of mind and that I'm thinking about a lot is governance and safety and transparency. And how do we make these models perform better? Because one of the big things, and I get these questions all the time because I work in like highly regulated industries, is that like certain industries, there is zero margin for error because who takes responsibility for that answer at the end of the day? So if I'm working with a government department or if I'm working with a bank or a trading desk and there is a slight discrepancy in that policy or in the response for that policy, what happens? Like, who bears that responsibility? It's not the policy's fault? Is it the AI's fault? Is it the organization's fault? Is it the user's fault? That right now it's tricky to point the blame finger at the moment if you're going down these agentic workflows. So one of the things that I'm really looking into is how do we address that? Part of that is having guardrails around your models. So do we put in a safety prompt at the start to go and say, hey, block any harmful prompts, and like a guardrail at the end to block any harmful outputs? Do we go and try to tweak the model itself, like using ablation or obliteration? Do we change the models? Do we have to go and fine tune the models? If we're doing something to do with RAG, do we go and implement the RAG triad on the fly and determine whether or not we're actually performant or not? There's like a whole bunch of different processes that we can go and tune. Like one of the simplest ones that I tell everyone is like, if you're going to go and render this back to your users that aren't yourself, like that aren't the people that have gone and built this, just please make sure that you say this has been generated by AI, because at least that in the user's mind, like we've become accustomed to know that, hey, everything from AI is probably not going to be perfect. So I should probably go and double check this. Like that's a really simple one, right? Low hanging fruit. The other one is if you're doing some sort of RAG or you're getting context from somewhere and you're injecting that into your prompt, return the source so people can go and read that source. Because if something seems a little bit fishy, they can always go and double check and say, hey, no, there's a negation of that statement here. Or like, instead of saying, yes, you're entitled to 3 years of annual leave for every year of service, people will be like, wait, hold on, I should probably go and double check that in the source. Like, where is something going wrong? Or like, is that really true? Because that seems almost too good to be true. So I think that's a really big thing, because sometimes it's so easy to use generative AI or these LLMs that we're just like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to take this answer. It's like, yep, that was good, whatever, sure, I'll plug that in. And that's where we get some of these really big issues or big screw ups. And like, there's always this temptation when you're writing code to just like accept. Like I was using Cursor a ton. So easy to just accept everything, right? And like not even read through what it's generated. But you really need to go and still keep your brain thinking and stay sharp when you are doing this type of stuff.
Yeah. So like one of the challenges that I usually run into is you never get the exact same response every time, right? I know there are like certain techniques that you can apply. So how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's inherent. Like when we go and use LLMs, we tend to use, or when we go and decode the outputs, we can go and decode them using a couple of different methods. Greedy is like one of the most popular, where you just take the highest probability token or the highest probability logit. We've also got sampling, where we go and randomly sample, or where we go and sample from a distribution of the output tokens. We've also got like other techniques like beam search, but we've also got like this floating precision error as well, right? Like, because when we're multiplying stuff, we get to these really, really small numbers, and it can be really tricky to distinguish whether or not we should be going down X route or Y route. So that's just an inherent limitation inside of these massive LLMs that we're getting out there with. So I think one of the best things that you can do, and we're kind of doing this already, is we are introducing RAG patterns so that we're at least grounding them in the right context. The other thing that we are doing is, well, you should also be double checking which type of decoding you're using. The other thing that we are doing, because like if I think about what your question is, right, the inherent thing is making sure that we get the right answer, right? It's not necessarily whether or not we get the exact same answer every single time. It's that we're producing the correct response, or a response that's grounded appropriately, that isn't factually incorrect. So it all sort of hops back to sort of this governance question, like, are we grounding it in the correct documents? Are we providing it with the right context? Are we clarifying questions? So I think that's a big thing. So making sure that you have the architecture right to be able to go and get a correct response to the user is going to be critical, because there's always going to be that degree of randomness because of how big these models are and because of the way that we go and generate these outputs. But as long as you are producing or have all these guardrails around it, you're at least going to protect your user.
So one more thing that people talk about is like right now the agentic systems are probably not mature enough to like just let them like it be completely autonomous, right? So you say always have like human in the loop. So what are
Yeah.
you seeing out in the industry? Are we seeing organizations build totally autonomous systems, or is there always a human in the loop?
Oh my God, I'm seeing some really scary stuff out there in the industry at the moment, to be honest. I had this massive debate with this guy in a workshop I was running about, he was using agents to monitor, or he proposed that we could potentially use agents to monitor other agents. And I was like, look, that's okay, but we still do need to monitor those agents as well. Like at some degree, some human should ideally be responsible for this stuff. Otherwise, like, I mean, maybe you can let them all be autonomous and just run, but that just seems ultra risky to me. And like, depending on what industry you're operating on and like what access your agent has, or what tools your agent has access to, that's ultra risky, right? Like if all your agent has access to is like web search, well, you're probably not that bad. But if your agent has access to production systems, or your agent is reading and writing to a database, or has any sort of access to a database, well, there's ultra high risk there. So I think we need to take this sort of balanced approach. Look at what the use case is and evaluate how high or low risk that particular use case is. What population of users is that going to impact or serve, and determine what appropriate guardrails we need to place around it. Certain low risk stuff, you probably don't need a ton of guardrails, right? Like if my agent just has access to like a dad joke API, doesn't really matter, right? Nobody really cares if it writes a crap joke. But if it's got access to, I don't know, systems that can retrieve and bring back users, or deal with financials for a company or a personal's banking details, you're going to need a ton more governance around that. And I think that's really critical that you evaluate it on a use case per use case basis. Cause like, I don't want to be the arbiter, or like the harbinger of like agent downfall. Like I'm really pro innovation. I think when we do go and deploy this stuff, as we should in any system, we just evaluate the risk of something going right versus it going wrong, and work out what the safeguards are around that and what we do if there is an incident.
Yeah. I mean, what I'm seeing with at least most of the clients that I'm working with, is they're only deploying this to internal employee solutions. They're not ready to open it up to customers yet, right? Until we know for sure that we can get a predictable response from these agents. So that's why I was curious if you had seen anything, any use cases where they were like completely autonomous.
Yeah, and I'm seeing very much the same, right? And us as individual users, I think we've got a bigger appetite for risk, because if we see something go wrong, a little bit wrong in our code, we're like, whatever, we can fix it.
Mhm.
If it generates a crap image, we're like, whatever, we can fix that. But inside of an organization, there's like the impact of stuff going wrong is a lot higher, right? Like if you think about like what happens if Bank of America says that, hey, at the interest rate that we're going to give you is -2%, so we'll pay you to take our money. There's pretty big impacts for that, right? Or if we quote the wrong interest rate, and we've seen it happen, right? Like a lot of our client engineering team in Australia, we're doing this day in, day out, and we've got like red teaming exercises all the time to try and force them to do the wrong thing, to see how do we go and secure against that. And like natively, right, if you go and search a website, like one of the really weird things that agents really struggle with, or LLMs really struggle with, is just tables. Because let's say like a table isn't necessarily structured for an agent to go and understand it. It's structured to go and render that into HTML. So it can be really easy, but a lot of pertinent information is stored inside a table. So how do we make sure that we render the right thing, and that the agent is responding based on the correct information? So yeah, you're right. I think there's a lot of stuff being deployed internally, but that's not to say that stuff internally is inherently lower risk, right? Because what happens, like an individual is not going to be happy if you're quoting them the wrong annual leave allowance, or if you accidentally transfer them to a low band or give them a pay decrease. So there's still risk around it, right? Like there's risk around all of these use cases. But yeah, I am seeing a couple of people deploying stuff to production in terms of agents, but to your point, I think I'm seeing low risk use cases at the moment. The high risk stuff is people are still very risk averse in terms of what they're deploying, as they should be, right? Because until we've got appropriate guardrails, or until they work out how to go and secure those workflows, you need to be ultra risk aware for what you're trying to deploy out there into production. But building systems, writing code, like we can review that individually. But as soon as you go and deploy these huge automated workflows, I think it becomes inherently harder to go and manage those.
So, so speaking of writing code, so let's talk about frameworks, right? There are like so many different frameworks out there, everything from LangChain, LlamaIndex, Autogen. There's so many open
Yeah.
source frameworks. We have our own BA agent framework. So how would you, for developers that are, that have to like make this choice, what would be some key things that they should look at that would help them figure out what's the right framework for the right use case?
I think a big thing is it comes back to like that modular development. Like how easy is it to swap out the LLM? How easy is it to go and port your tools? So I think that the things that I keep in mind is like, one, how easy is it going to be for me to build an agent in this, right? Like if I have to go and write 5,000 lines of code just to build an agent, then it's going to be an absolute pain. So that's the first thing that I'm typically looking at. Can I use MCP? So because I don't want to have to go and write my tools every single time inside of every single different workflow to go and use them, right? So I think MCP support is another really big thing. And then how do I go and trace and monitor these workflows? So if stuff goes wrong, because we always see it, right? Like an agent like throws up an error because maybe it didn't have a sufficient context window or max generated tokens value to be able to go and generate the full output. So how do we go and monitor that? So I think if you keep those three things in mind, they make your life easier. When I'm building agents at the moment, and this is as of right now, I'm tend to build like hardcore code-based models inside of LangGraph. I don't know if that's just what I'm seeing. Rise is like one of the really popular frameworks at the moment, but I also really like small agents from Hugging Face. That's a really great package. But again, traceability is a really big thing for me. So, because I want to work out when it goes wrong, how do I go and fix this? And the reason that I'm consistently seeing this stuff go wrong is because I'm always trying to use smaller models. Like I want to try to make this as cheap as possible for people to go and use out there in the real world. So when you do tend to use smaller models, stuff breaks a lot faster because like maybe they're not as big and as smart as like the big frontier models. So traceability is a really big thing for me. And like for that, I tend to look to LangFuse or 𝗪𝗏. I'm doing a lot of stuff with LangFuse at the moment. That seems to be a pretty good framework for traceability. MCP, I'm doing a ton of stuff with MCP to go and build out tools. Like I've got a bunch of YouTube videos on that. So like maybe just quickly skim through one of those to go and learn how to do it if you haven't done so already. And I'm trying to remember what else did you ask in that question?
Yeah,
So
just
what frameworks, what to think?
what framework? Yeah, how to decide on which framework to use for what use cases. I think you pretty
Yeah, so
much covered all of it. Yeah.
yeah, so those are like the code-based use cases. If you're like not as confident in writing code or don't want to go and write code, I'm doing a ton of stuff in LangFlow because it's all just drag and drop. You can add custom tools in there. You can still go and write code. For big enterprise type stuff, obviously I work at IBM, so I tend to look to watsonx Orchestrate for those capabilities and watsonx.ai for the bigger, more hardcore models. But typically I'm building stuff and authoring stuff on my MacBook, so I'm trying to bring stuff back to as cheap and as fast to run as possible.
So I know this was only going to be 20 minutes, but you had such great information. It's almost 50 minutes now. Like just a couple more questions and then we can wrap this up. So I know
Yeah,
you've
sure.
helped a lot of developers get started on AI, and
Mhm.
with AI changing, with the pace of everything that's, it's just so rapid. Everything was changing so much, just so hard to keep
Yeah.
up with. It almost seems like every single day you feel like you're left behind, right? No matter how much effort you put into it. So what are the skill sets and the mindset that you think that developers should have to kind of, you know, be successful in this AI era?
Skill sets. So like if you want to get into AI, like let me give you some hard technical skill sets. So I think linear algebra, absolutely critical. Probability and statistics, also critical. Get an understanding of calculus, mainly differentiation, for understanding how we go and train these models. But linear algebra is going to be absolutely critical to work out how stuff is generated and how to go and interpret like new stuff. Like again, hopping back to this mechanistic interpretability stuff, like there's like a bunch of dot products and like I'm doing like vector projections and I'm like, how exactly does all this stuff work and how does it bake together? But if you, those three hardcore technical skill sets, or like I call them like my theory skill sets, those are going to serve you in good stead. And just go watch a video, like 3 Blue 1 Brown is absolutely exceptional for that. He's got some really good videos on just getting started. I tend to just go and watch this stuff at like 2x speed to go and smash through it and then write a ton of notes. Pick a programming language. I think Python's a great one to get started with. If you want to do more UI based stuff, maybe just grab JavaScript or TypeScript as well. And then just continuously be curious, right? I think that's the key thing. There's going to be so many capabilities and technologies coming in, day out. It's like just get curious and start building stuff. But in terms of the mindset stuff, I really like that you asked me that and that you said that. I need you guys to adopt a mindset of you're not going to know everything, and that is okay, right? This stuff is moving so fast that there's always going to be new topics. Like the beauty of it is that you've always got this new stuff to learn and go and to push your skills a little bit further. So it's okay if you don't know, or if someone asks you like, "Hey, have you seen this?" Say, "I don't know." Like I used to have this like really bad imposter syndrome where if somebody said like, "Hey Nick, have you gone and seen this?" And like, I have no idea what on earth that is. Like in my heart, I'd be like, "Oh my God, like I should know this stuff. There's just so much stuff coming out. Like why haven't you gone and read this, Nick? Like, why aren't you an expert on this?" And then I'm like, wait, hold on a minute. There's like a billion different things going on right now. Like you've got a million things. You're like going down this space. And I'm like, I'm sure if you went and talked to a person about the stuff that you're doing, they might have no idea. So treat it as a learning opportunity. If somebody's like, "Hey, have you seen this?" I'm like, "No, tell me more about it." Like what, like I remember Tim Ferriss talking about like this low information diet and where he wouldn't go and read the news. He'd just get, because people always wanted to talk about the news, right? So he would just get people to tell them about the news, and that way he didn't have to go and read stuff. And like that's the way I take it now. If like somebody's got something new, they're like, "Hey Nick, have you heard about this?" I'm like, "Oh no, tell me about it." Like, and then if I want to go and learn more about it, then I will. But otherwise, I'm like, don't worry about it. But the other thing, it's okay to not know. And like that, we've always got this, us as humans, we've got this thing built into us that we want this sense of completeness. and that we want this sense of closure. So like, I know that a lot of kids out there and a lot of students out there and a lot of people just starting out their careers, they're like, I want to be the complete data scientist, or I want to be the complete machine learning engineer, or the complete AI engineer. And like, you want to have this feeling of like, I know this stuff, or I'm the best at this stuff, or I have a full understanding of this stuff. The thing is, the field is always changing. So like, this completion endpoint is like this fictional thing, right? So you're never going to be done. Like there's always going to be something new, and just understanding that will make your life so much easier. Because if you're just consistently striving to be better than you were yesterday, you're going to go a really long way. And just know that you're doing well. That's like inspirational, Nick, coming at you there. Just keep striving, and like, I think that's the key thing. Just try to be a better you than you were yesterday in this particular field.
Yeah, it's actually a great strategy around imposter syndrome. I'm definitely going to use that.
Yeah,
All
and it's
right.
like a real thing, right? Yeah, I still
Yeah.
suffer from it as well. So like, I'm continuously learning. Like, I do it every single day.
All right. Oh my God, we covered so much from basics to actual production implementation. Any closing thoughts that you want to leave listeners with?
Remember that you as an individual are ultimately creative. So when you're like, where's my place in this world of LLMs and generative AI coming out? We're still some of the most creative beings in the universe, right? So don't forget that. So when we're generating stuff, just remember your ideas probably outflank most of these LLMs. So when you're coming up with a solution, don't be afraid to push back and like try to generate something more useful, and keep using your brain. Please don't just let LLMs do all the thinking for you. I think that's the key thing.
Awesome. That's an awesome takeaway to wrap up this episode with. Oh my God, it's been so amazing, Nicholas. I've learned so much from you. I'm sure our listeners are going to enjoy this episode. So I'm going to leave your YouTube links and your LinkedIn profile in our show notes. But again, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a great episode. And with that, this is the Generative AI Revolution podcast, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much. Catch you later.
All right. Thank you.